Ma'am, we have you on camera. Don't lie. Just put the lipstick back and leave before I call the police. The words hit like a slap. Ava froze. Her hand hovered near her purse, but she wasn't reaching for anything. Her eyes flicked to the clerk. White, stern eyes narrowed with conviction, not question. People turned, brows raised. Phones emerged. Ava stood still, stunned by the sharpness in the woman's voice. Her throat tightened. I didn't take anything, she said, steady but soft, like she had to modulate her own truth just to be heard. You were seen slipping it into your bag. The clerk snapped, pointing. Don't make this harder. A group of girls near the skincare section exchanged glances. One began filming. A man stepped aside to watch. No one intervened. Ava's pulse thudded in her ears. It wasn't just the accusation, it was the cold certainty behind it. Like the verdict had already been handed down. She clutched her purse closer, not to hide anything, but to keep herself together. I'd like to see the footage, she said. Voice still even. The clerk scoffed, arms crossed. Security's on the way. And with that, the room grew smaller, colder. Every eye now rested on her like judgment passed. I didn't steal anything, Ava repeated. Her blazer still sat neatly on her shoulders. Her makeup was subtle, her heels modest. She had dressed with purpose today. Respectability, she knew, was armor. But it never seemed thick enough. I came in to buy one thing, she said, holding up the lipstick still in her hand. That's it. The clerk didn't blink. Funny how you're calm now. Ava inhaled slowly. Then please, check the cameras. Let's end this. The clerk didn't move, didn't even acknowledge the request, just kept her eyes pinned to Ava like she was waiting for the confession to come. Ava folded her arms across her chestnut in defiance, but defense. Her calm was mistaken for guilt, her grace for deception. The manager arrived, an older man with a clipboard and a distracted frown. He didn't ask questions, just looked at the clerk, then at Ava. She was seen concealing merchandise. The clerk said flatly, "Okay," the manager said, waving to security. "Escort her out." "Wait," Ava stepped forward. "You didn't even check, ma'am," the security guard interrupted, voiced robotic. "We need you to leave. You're banned until further notice." Ava stared at him, bewildered. "You didn't even heed." Placed a hand near her shoulder, not touching, but close enough to warn her around them. The air thickened. The customers had stopped pretending to browse. Still no one spoke. Still no one stood. Ava looked back one last time, hoping for a sliver of reason. None came as security led her toward the door. The store grew strangely quiet. Phones were still. Up, faces curious, but blank. One mother nudged her daughter behind a display, whispering something. But the little girl peeked around anyway, eyes wide. "Why does she look so sad?" the child asked. Ava heard it, the words carved deep. She looked over her shoulder and met the girl's gaze. Her throat clenched. She didn't speak, just nodded, faintly as if to say, "You're right to wonder." The mother quickly pulled her daughter away, muttering, "Come on, sweetie." The doors slid open, and the sun outside felt too bright. Ava stepped into it like a shadow being cast out, the sting of every staring eye trailing behind her. She'd done nothing, but shame clung to her like a scent she couldn't scrub off. Still, she walked, shoulders straight, legs steady, until the car door shut and everything fell apart. She sat in her parked car, hands trembling on the steering wheel. For a moment, she didn't move, didn't breathe. Then it came quiet at first, then uncontrollable. Her shoulders shook with sobs. She reached to the passenger seat and grabbed the old leather notebook. Its pages had seen her through worse, or so she thought. She flipped it open, eyes blurring, fingers landing on a familiar sentence scribbled in ink. They don't see me. They never did. Ava stared at the words, the same ones she'd written months ago. Before this, and yet today, they'd never felt more real. You don't have to shout to be heard. Ava's grandmother used to say, you just have to mean it. South LA was loud sirens, arguments, laughter bleeding through apartment walls. But inside their tiny kitchen, Ava learned stillness. Her grandmother, Miss Thelma, had never raised her voice, but her presence filled a room. When the landlord ignored repairs, she wrote letters. When cops harassed Ava's cousin outside their porch, she stared them down without saying a word. That's where Ava found her strength, not in noise, but in knowing. And when the world dismissed her, she started writing. Not for sympathy, but to be remembered, unseen. That's what she called it. A memoir born from scraped knees, missed job offers, and moments like that store confrontation. Ava poured her truth into every page, how systemic racism felt like glass ceilings and quiet humiliations. How being too black, too bold, too real made her invisible. She sent it out again and again. The responses always came back polished, but cold, compelling, but not relatable. A bit too niche for our audience. She could read between the lines. Her truth made them uncomfortable. Still, Ava kept writing. Every rejection became a reason. Every no sharpened her message. She didn't want fame. She wanted acknowledgement. She wanted someone to read her story and say, I see you. The notebook had been with her through it, all geared, stained, pages curled from coffee spills and tears. Inside were bits of her things no editor could erase. Snippets of overheard conversations, childhood dreams, lines she whispered to herself after bad days. Some pages were unfinished. Others bled ink from nights she couldn't sleep. She carried it everywhere. Not for luck, but because it held her voice and filtered, untouched, undeniable. When no one listened, she wrote louder. She wasn't trying to impress anyone. The open mic was tonight, an event for black writers in Leimert Park. She was finally going to read unseen out loud, one page, one shot. Her voice amplified. I want to feel strong, she told herself while browsing the beauty aisle. The lipstick was deep plum, bold, elegant, like Miss Thelma used to wear on Sundays, buying. It felt symbolic, a tiny act of self-love before stepping into the spotlight. She never imagined that one purchase, meant to empower, would be weaponized against her. But Ava knew this wasn't just about lipstick. It never was. Welcome in, the clerk says. Forced, Ava steps through the glass doors with purpose, the bag over her shoulder hugging her side. She's been here before, same lights, same layout. But today, the air feels different. To her left, a white woman samples foundation freely, chatting casually with a staff member. To her right, a second clerk looks up from her phone and leans in toward a coworker. A hushed whisper, a glance. Then the security guard appears, suddenly invested in reorganizing a shelf 5 feet from Ava. She catches the shift, as always. It's not loud, but it's undeniable. She straightens her spine, keeps moving. She knows what this is, the quiet, scanning, the silent suspicion, and she knows better than to let it show. Hi, Ava says politely, lifting a product. Do you have a tester for this shade? The clerk barely meets her eyes. We don't offer open samples anymore, she says, curt. Ava nods, keeping her expression neutral. Got it. But as she rounds the next aisle, she hears it laughing. A different customer, blonde, friendly, holding out her wrist while a clerk dabs swatches along her skin. 3 shades, same product, same day. Ava swallows. The contradiction hits hard, not because it's new, but because it's so familiar. Unspoken rules that shift depending on who's asking. She doesn't react, doesn't call it out, just keeps walking, pretending she didn't see what she just saw. She forces the corners of her mouth up just slightly, that practiced, non-threatening smile. It's not about being nice, it's survival. She's been taught her whole life. Don't appear upset, don't challenge, don't give them a reason, because being black and visibly frustrated is never just frustration. It's danger, so she plays the part. Calm, pleasant, predictable. But inside, there's a pressure building, not anger fatigue, from holding in, from brushing off, from constantly doing the math of how do I look to them right now. She exhales and heads to the register. The lipstick is a deep plum, the kind that makes her feel bolder just by holding it. She pays with exact change, nods once, and slides it into her tote. This wasn't retail therapy. This was Armadot. She isn't here for approval. She came to claim space, to feel beautiful before standing behind a mic and reading words the world keeps rejecting. You're not here to be liked, she reminds herself. You're here to be seen. But as the automatic doors part and she steps into the sunlight, that weight returns. It always does. Walking away, Ava replays every second. The glances, the lies about policy, the silence. It didn't leave bruises. It didn't need to, because this kind of racism doesn't shout, it whispers. It chips. It repeats until you start questioning your own reality. And today, it stuck a little deeper. Her fingers brush the edge of her notebook through her bag. Not to write yet, just to remind herself she still has a voice, even when the world pretends not to hear it. Back so soon. The words land like a slap. Ava freezes for half a second before turning toward the voice. The same clerk, the same store. But today, Ava isn't here to fight. She's here to prepare. She's wearing her best blouse, her lips still stained from the lipstick she bought last time. Tonight is her first open mic. She forces a smile, just grabbing something real quick. The clerk doesn't smile back, just watches. Eyes narrowed. Ava keeps walking, head high. The familiar weight presses against her chest, but she breathes through it. She won't let this woman ruin the moment. Not today. Not when her voice is finally about to be heard. But deep down, something in her warns, this isn't over. Ava places the foundation on the counter, fishing through her tote. You didn't pay for that lipstick last time. The words hang in the air, sharp and loud. Ava blinks. What? The clerk doesn't repeat herself. She just stares, daring Ava to deny it. People around them freeze. Someone gasps softly. A phone is lifted. Ava single quotes as heart races. I paid. I have the receipt. At home, you left with it in your hand. The clerk says, louder this time. We saw it on camera. That's a lie, a bold one. Ava swallows hard. Check your system. I bought it with cash. Exact amount. But the damage is done. Nobody moves. Nobody questions the accusation. It isn't about the lipstick. It never was. His murmurs, feels the eyes, and for the first time in a long time, her voice shakes. Why would I steal from here? No answer, just judgment. Two security guards approach from the side. Ma'am, we need to check your bag. No, Ava says, quickly. You can check your cameras. I didn't take anything. The clerk crosses her arms. If you didn't, then what's the issue? Ava's palms sweat. Her hands tremble slightly. I'm not emptying my purse in front of strangers. I said I paid. You can verify it. But no one does. The guard repeats, Ma'am, your bag. Ava takes a breath. I'm not a thief. She's speaking louder now, but even her volume feels dangerous. Feels like a risk. I'm not a thief, she says again, firmer. The clerk scoffs. Sure, of course you're not. A crowd has gathered. Phones are recording. No one intervenes. Not. One person says, maybe she's telling the truth. She's not just defending herself now. She's defending every woman who's ever been accused before being asked. She doesn't scream. She doesn't run. She just walks between two guards who don't say a word toward the exit, like she's being punished for a crime they never proved. Her chest is tight. Her ears ring. Ava looks over her shoulder one last time, hoping for anything, someone to speak up, someone to say this isn't right. But the customers look away. One woman stares at her shoes. A man checks his phone. The clerk turns her back. With a satisfied smile. They see her, but they don't see her outside. The door clicks shut behind her, and that's it. No footage checked. No questions asked. Just a quiet, brutal decision based on nothing but assumption. She's left standing. Under the open sky, falsely accused, publicly humiliated, all because of a foundation bottle and the color of her skin. Hey. Ava looks up. A teenage girl, no older than 15, stands a few feet away, nervous, wide-eyed. I saw what happened, the girl says. They treated you wrong. I'm sorry. It's a whisper, but it cuts through the noise. Ava's still trying to quiet in her head. She nods, swallowing hard. Thank you. The girl lingers for a moment, then walks away. Head down. That one sentence, that simple act of truth, is more than anyone else inside. Offered her. Ava leans against her car. Her fingers still wrapped around the bottle she never got to buy. She's not crying, not yelling. She's just empty. Her reflection in the rearview mirror looks tired, but not broken. She wonders if yelling would have changed anything, or if it would have just confirmed what they already believed. She knows the answer from her tote. She pulls out her notebook, opens to a blank page, and writes, I was made to feel small, but their fear of me was bigger. She exhales, closes the book, and holds it close like armor, because, tonight, she still has a story to read. I won't let them define me. That's what Ava whispers as she opens her notebook, hands still shaking. She hasn't eaten. Her foundation is still in her purse, untouched. But the words, though, she has. She scribbles with urgency. Not just about today, but about the years leading up to it. The subtle cuts, the moments no one saw, the ones that still sting. I walked in wearing confidence. I walked out covered in shame. She pauses, breathing through the ache. Didn't see a woman preparing to share her voice. They saw a problem that looked like me. Her pen doesn't stop. Her pages fill with pain, with fury, with truth. She ends with one sentence. They saw a thief. I saw a mirror. It's past midnight. Ava sits cross-legged on her bed. typing out a section of what she wrote raw and unrevised. She attaches a photo of her receipt, then one of herself, eyes swollen but unhidden. The caption reads, "I was accused, I was silenced, but I will not stay quiet." Hashtag unseen, she hovers over the share button. What if no one cares? What if they say she's making it about race again? Her thumb taps the screen. Post sent, then silence. She sets the phone down, unsure if she's just screamed into a void. Her phone vibrates. Once, then again, by morning. Her notifications are impossible to keep up with. The post has exploded. Comments, retweets, threads of support, stories like hers. Code from Chicago, Atlanta, Oakland. IAM, Ava trends before noon. One woman shares, "I was 17. They made me strip in a dressing room. Never forgot it." Another writes, "Reading this broke me, but it also healed. Something I thought was gone." Activists reposed. Journalists DM. Ava watches it all in disbelief. Meanwhile, the store disables comments. Their apology feels too late. They can't contain it now because it was never just about lipstick. 3 days later, Ava checks her inbox and stops breathing. Subject line, "Lupita's team, thank you for your voice. We read your thread. We read your words. They broke us, but they also rebuilt us." Lupita would be honored to narrate Unseen in audio. She says your voice is urgent, human, and devastatingly beautiful. Ava stares at the screen, her hand over her mouth. All those rejection emails telling her she was too niche, too angry, too much. Now, one of the most respected women in Hollywood is asking to speak her words into the world. She doesn't cry, not yet, but she closes her eyes and lets the silence wrap around her like peace. The lights fade in on a grand stage. Lupita stands at the podium, holding a copy of Unseen. Her voice is gentle but deliberate. "I have been followed. I have been feared. I have been falsely accused. But I will not be erased." A pause, then applause. Ava stands behind the curtain, clutching her notebook. It used to be her shelter now. It's her weapon. She listens as her pain becomes performance truth, laid bare for a world that once refused to listen. For the first time, she's not alone in the truth. It's being heard, and that changes everything. Ava walks onto the stage, head high, voice steady, not just a woman accused, but an author, an advocate, a symbol. She no longer asks to be seen. Now she's impossible to ignore. Her words, once confined to a leather notebook, now live in hearts, across screens, in the mouths of the silenced, and finally, Ava knows the world is listening. The store's statement goes live. "We deeply regret the misunderstanding. We are reviewing our internal policies." Ava reads the post twice. Not a single mention of her name. No responsibility, just damage control. Hours later, a private email lands in her inbox. A settlement offer, 6 figures, no admission of fault, NDA attached. She exhales, screenshots the email, and posts her reply. "This isn't about money. This is about change. I won't take hush money to protect your comfort." She demands mandatory anti-bias training for all employees publicly. The crowd rallies behind her. This time, the silence belongs to those who once doubted her. The clerk is fired. Quietly at first, but nothing stays quiet anymore. The public calls it what it is: racial profiling. Boycotts begin. Reviews pour in. Hashtag shop with justice trends on X. Ava doesn't gloat. She doesn't post the headline. She doesn't need to. Consequences, she tells a journalist, aren't revenge. They're accountability. The store's polished brand starts to crack and the world finally takes notice. Weeks later, Ava signs a deal with a major publisher. Unseen becomes a national bestseller. She speaks on late-night shows, sits on diversity panels, headlines, conferences, but it's not the spotlight that brings her peace. It's the letters, folded notes, carefully written in pencil, from girls who see themselves in her. One reads, "I never thought someone like me could be a writer, until I read your story." Another says, "I told my teacher I want to write my own book too." Ava holds one to her heart, eyes soft. She whispers, "That's the real win, not the press, not the fame, but planting courage where silence used to live." Have you ever felt erased, dismissed, judged before you even spoke? If Ava's story reminded you of something you've lived or something you've witnessed, put it in the comments. This space is for you. Your voice matters. Every truth shared becomes a spark. If this story moved, you don't just scroll past, like, subscribe, hit the bell, because every click helps stories like Ava's rise above the noise. Together, we can uplift voices the world tries to silence. Let's keep exposing injustice. Together, Ava stood her ground. Now it's our turn.